You're watching Dante's Boxing Nation. Woo!
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So the longtime promoter Barry Hearn, who's the father of Eddie Hearn, he said something at this Whyte versus Rivas press conference that took almost all of the attention away from the actual fight that they were promoting. Barry Hearn, he decided to use a slave reference, but not only did he use a slave reference, he included himself in that reference as one of the slave traders. And I'm about to go ahead and play the clip right now, but as you see in this image that I'm showing you guys, this is Barry Hearn looking dead into Dillian Whyte's eyes when he actually made the reference. I'm gonna go ahead and play the clip and then I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts.
And bear this in mind that Matchroom Sport have a fight-by-fight arrangement with Dillian Whyte. Isn't that weird? Why do we have... He's not tied up like the slave contract of yesteryear. When I was running boxing, it was much easier. We were slave traders. We had these guys and they were working for us and we was the boss. The pendulum has swung. Now I have to say, Mr. Dillian Whyte. I have to be respectful. And it's really a nice position to be in because we can be honest with each other. Dillian, you're not under a long-term contract, but we like you. And Dillian's had tremendous offers from around the world, but he's backed himself. He's going to be a major player in his mind for some time to come. We will continue to represent and fight his case with the WBC because really, I don't think he's had a fair crack at the whip with those guys.
A fair crack of the whip, huh? All right, y'all. Now, the first thing I want to say is regardless if you think he was just joking around and he didn't mean anything when he said it, Barry Hearn is very lucky that boxing is like the Wild Wild West, where they let you get away with anything. Because if this was Major League Baseball, if this was the NBA, if this was the NFL, Barry would be banned from the sport. If you don't believe me, ask the former owner of the LA Clippers, Donald Sterling. Ask former NFL commentator Rush Limbaugh, who got fired for making a slave reference while calling the game live. You know, it's funny because what a lot of people that aren't black, what they don't get is when people like Donald Sterling and other people, when they get banned, when they get fired for saying something racially offensive towards black people, it doesn't matter what a non-black person thinks. So if you have all these non-black people that weren't offended saying, hey, man, if that offended you, you just must be a sensitive person. It doesn't matter what they say because the people that are in charge, that are firing these people making these racist comments, they're letting them go because of how black people felt about it, not the race that wasn't offended. They're not gonna go to a white person and ask him, how did he feel about what this person said about black people? Because that white guy wasn't the target. He wasn't the butt of the joke. Does that make any sense? And the reason why I mention this is because you always have people that aren't black trying to tell black people what should offend them and what shouldn't offend them. That's like a guy with no tattoos trying to argue with a guy who has tons of tattoos, telling him how it feels to get one, if it's painful or not or whatever. With that being said, let's get back to what Barry Hearn said. You know, guys, once again, it doesn't matter if you think what he said was unintentional, if he didn't mean it to come out that way, if he didn't mean to put it in that time. I mean, don't get me wrong. I completely understand the point that Barry Hearn was trying to make. He was trying to say, back in the day, fighters, they didn't really have a say-so in the matter. Promoters were the ones with all the power. But now, today, things have completely changed, where the fighters, they do have the power. They do get to say what they want, who they want to fight. You see, it would be completely different if Barry would have said that with two white guys sitting on the stage. It's only common sense that when you're a white man sitting on the stage with two black fighters, you don't use any type of slave reference, and you certainly don't include yourself as one of the slave masters. And you certainly don't talk anything about you being a slave master or you were the slave master and then talk about cracking a whip all in the same conversation. That should be common sense that you don't say something like that. I mean, imagine if it was two Jewish fighters on the stage. That's no different than a promoter using a Holocaust reference. Maybe he didn't mean to offend the Jews when he said that. But once again, you don't want to bring up something that has a historical negative connotation that relates to the fighter that you're talking about. I mean, who knows? Maybe these were undertones from Barry Hearn. Or maybe he was really trying to make a valid point in defense of Dillian Whyte and boxers in a whole. But once again, he could have did it in a much better way than that. But the real irony of this all is Deontay Wilder, he's been calling Eddie Hearn Anthony Joshua's slave master for quite some time because he blames Eddie Hearn on that fight not happening. And now today you hear Eddie Hearn's father self-proclaiming himself as a slave trader, or at least saying he used to be the slave traders. Now, for the record, I slightly disagree with Deontay Wilder when it comes to Anthony Joshua. I've always felt that it's Anthony Joshua that didn't want the Deontay Wilder fight, not Eddie Hearn. Once again, I told you guys on numerous videos, there was a time when Eddie Hearn, he was saying, oh, we want that fight. We want that fight. Anthony Joshua will knock out Deontay Wilder in 3 rounds. He was saying that about 3-4 years ago. But when Eddie Hearn had came out and said that to the public, Anthony Joshua, he came right back out and he retracted what his promoter said and said something that was the complete contrary. He said, look guys, I'm not going to be rushed into fighting against Deontay Wilder. I worked hard to get into this position, etc., etc., etc. So I've always believed that it was AJ that didn't want that fight, not Eddie Hearn. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this video up. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.